This 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Jordan Luca 3 Motorsport Edition was just added to both Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon as well. And while I know this is part of some big promotion that they're doing, I don't really care, I have to say, because I think the car looks kind of cool. So I wanted to see what it was like, how it would drive, and what we could maybe do with it, both in Motorsport and Horizon. And with that, welcome back to HD Racing. We're gonna start off in Forza Motorsport, and I just decided to go for the single player special event that they're running for this. You can find that in the career if you're interested. And first of all, we're just gonna drive the car stock. And by stock, I mean in the version that we're giving here. This is of course not a stock 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. You could see how wide this thing is, and it also has a different engine, way more powerful. So this stock sits at almost the top of A-Class. We still have some PI points left to do something with. We're gonna do that, of course, a little bit later. But first of all, as I'm driving it stock here against the AI, you could already see AI doing AI things. We're also gonna see a lot of that today. And once again, like the AI, I did set it to 7 out of 8, because that seemed like I could then maybe be able to fight for a win here, even if I start a little bit further back. But even with that difficulty, sometimes the AI just was super weird and slow. It's still something that needs to be worked on, but I've talked about that in a different video already, I think. But talking about the car, it actually feels kind of nice to drive. It has some a little bit weird tendencies that I would like to tune out. As I said, we're gonna do that. One of which is the brake feel is a little bit weird, which is also something we're gonna see a little later. That is a little bit of a problem area. I mean, it's fine right now, but it can be problematic. And the other thing is its tendency to both understeer in certain sections, and then if you put the power down a little bit too much, or have a little bit too much rotation when you put the power down, I should say, then you get oversteer, and quite a lot of that as well. So it's definitely a car that is a decent platform from what I've felt from driving it here, but we definitely want to do some stuff with it in terms of upgrading and tuning. And there are some options, though not as many as I maybe would have expected, and also not some of the things I really would like to see, which we do see in Forza Horizon. But we're gonna take a look at that later on. But let's leave this race behind for now and jump into some upgrading. So as I said, there is quite a lot that you can do, and some of the things are really interesting. For example, the tires here. Okay, you can take drag tires, which doesn't make sense. We don't have drag racing, but the stock tires are actually some kind of race tire. They are pretty good, but with upgrading to the race tire, which doesn't even cost PI, you can then also equip the softs, mediums, hards and wets, which you can't do on the stock tires. So that's kind of interesting. As I said, the normal tires aren't really bad, but what is bad is the stock transmission. So you could maybe see that already, and especially the last gear is super long, and you can't change that without getting the better transmission. So I had to do this, and that brought me a little bit over A-Class. And since I wanted for this first one to be in A-Class, I then decided, okay, the only way to actually bring that down is to get some ballast in the car. Not the greatest, but at least we have the option here in Motorsport now, which I find really cool, because that gives a lot more flexibility if you want certain upgrades, but then you need to lower your PI class a bit, like I need to do here. And with that ballast, I just have 2 PI left, and I was just looking through, and well, in the end, just did take one upgrade in pistons and compressions, and that basically maxed me out at A-Class, which is what I wanted to try first, because I think in Motorsport that is probably where this car can do best, but we will see if that's actually true later on. So I then went into the second race of this event, and that's on Silverstone. Only 2 laps. These races were all super short, so yeah, need to really make some ground here if I want to get somewhere. And once again, AI doing AI things. I'm not quite sure what is going on, but yeah, they seem to be crashing all over, and we're braking kind of early and a lot, and we're super slow. And I was just like, I want to get through. I kind of want to get into first place if I can. By the way, in the last race I did not manage to do that. I think I ended up in 4th, which was not that great, so hopefully we can do better in this one. I also did some fine-tuning, but I'm not gonna show that yet. I'm gonna show that a little bit later, because I still did some revisions after this race. There are quite a lot of things that can make this car feel a lot better, especially in terms of under and oversteer, and where you have or don't have that. What I couldn't really figure out how to change properly is the brake feel. You can maybe see that when I hit the brakes, it really feels kind of weird compared to some other cars especially. And you could see there some understeer still going on, so yeah, I'm still in the process of tweaking this, but we're just gonna jump ahead a little bit here. And I actually managed to get to 2nd place, and this is at the end of the race, but sadly I was just a little bit late, and the race is just a little bit too short, and I did not manage to overtake this guy here. And yeah, you can see here once again the understeer. So I was like, okay, there's still some changes in the fine-tuning needed to get this car to drive the way I want. So for the next race I did some more, and in that one it felt a lot better. And this time we're at Barcelona, so it was my goal to finally, since we also have 3 laps here, finally get a first place in this. So once again I needed to somehow get through the somewhat slow AI traffic here. Hopefully no big crashes this time, which yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but as I said, AI doing AI things, it's something that definitely needs some work. So I was a little bit stuck here in traffic, but okay, they at least left the inside open somewhat. And yeah, as I said, with the fine-tuning that I did, now the car felt quite a lot better. I'm gonna share the tune in game, so you can find that there if you're interested, and also we're gonna take a look after the race what this tune is like now. I'm not gonna say it's like the best. Maybe you can do also some other stuff in terms of upgrading and especially fine-tuning, but for me it felt good. So okay, finally made it through the bulk of traffic, and we're just gonna jump ahead a little bit once again. So here we are once again, last lap, but this time we still have some time left before the end of the lap, and we are close to this Mustang in front. So hopefully I can make some move stick this time. Sent it quite a lot on the inside here, and well, maybe didn't give him enough space on the exit, but then again I think that should have been fine. A little bit of a bump going on, but we managed to get him here. By the way, that penalty is definitely not from me overtaking some other car really recklessly. Why would you think that? Obviously not. But yeah, we actually managed to win even though I had that penalty, so I stayed in first. And after this race I was like, okay, let's try something else here. Maybe we can also get this thing to be at the top of S-Class. So what I did here is change the aspiration and also remove the ballast, and then just put in a whole lot of power. And you can see here that that maybe wasn't the greatest idea. The car really struggled to get going and put all that power on the road. But yeah, I just wanted to see if this was a thing that was possible and maybe good for the car. I mean, so far it's not bad. There definitely is a lot of power in this one, and still the grip feels kind of nice. Like if you discount the start that you saw there, which definitely felt a little bit weird, it actually felt kind of nice. I mean, you can see here on brakes, like it's jumping around quite a bit. And that's something that I really wasn't able to get out of it with fine-tuning. But look at the power. I'm just able to overtake so many cars here. It just feels great. So there's definitely nothing wrong with this tune and no flaw with this car, right? And then I just brake and yeah, I did slow the car down with a little bit of help and a little bit of penalty. So yeah, while this car is fast and it definitely can make use of the power with the grip that it has, I mean the tires are good enough and aero is fine, that you can also take fast corners without just sliding around. The big problem on this car is the brakes, and that is something that you can't upgrade, sadly, because if this car had a brake upgrade, I think it could actually be kind of working in S-Class. It's probably not gonna be like super competitive there and super great, but it's not bad. Like, with the amount of power that it has, it just feels like a super quick car that's also kind of fun to drive. But yeah, as I said, with the brakes, it's not really super effective. So in the end, I decided to stick with A-Class, and you're gonna see the completed tune here right here. So yeah, I just did a lot of fiddling around. As I said, it's probably not gonna be the best tune that you can make for this car, but it's the best that I could come up with in the time that I had. And I'm gonna show you the fine tuning here. You can see aero, it's not that much, but it's actually enough for the car. And overall, with what I did set here for the fine tuning and with the upgrades that I put in, the car feels really nice for A-Class for me. It's definitely special. It feels different than some other cars, which I think is nice. So like overall, I am really happy with this car in A-Class. It feels good. But that was just Forza Motorsport. The car also is available in Forza Horizon. And if you don't know, you can get that from your messages. It will be there as a gift. And in Forza Horizon, you have some of the similar upgrades, but also some more stuff. You can, for example, do an all-wheel drive swap, which you can't do in Motorsport, which is interesting. And tire-wise, you also have, since it's a Horizon, a lot more options. And that's something that we might explore later on. For now, we are just gonna see what this car is like in A-Class, because this one as a Forza edition just sits at the top of A-Class stock. So I just did some fine-tuning, not much, and just decided to go for a race and see how this car performs here in Horizon compared to Motorsport. And well, just did take a kind of random sprint race, even though I think this is one of the newly added ones, though I'm not quite sure. And yeah, here the car feels actually kind of similar to Motorsport. I think they, even though the games of course are kind of similar, they still, from a driving perspective, always felt different. And I'm also here not playing on my wheel but on my controller. But it still, the essence of the car is still here for this one. But Horizon also has something else going that we can't do in Motorsport, which I think this car could be really good for. And we're gonna take a look at that after this race. But yeah, let's just take a look here in cockpit perspective as well. Always looks a little bit janky in Horizon for me, but I mean, it's totally fine. Not the perspective I usually use, but I just wanted to see how similar or different that would feel. And yeah, from just the feeling of the car, I think it's very similar. It's just Horizon, just as it's a different driving physics, feels a little bit different. But yeah, overall the car here once again felt pretty good to drive. And for a Forza edition, it looks nice, it sounds kind of nice to me, and yeah, the driving is totally fine. So I think once again for Horizon as well, quite a nice addition to the game. But let's now take a look at what we can do in Horizon that we cannot do in Motorsport. And that is because of the available upgrades, because this thing in Horizon gets drift upgrades. So I'm just putting in the drift suspension and the drift tires, and then just putting in as much power as I possibly can. I'm this time not using the turbo. That could maybe be the better option, not quite sure. Definitely also need transmission here, because once again the 6th gear in this one is really bad. Taking the drift differential here, but that's just presets, so I'm just taking that because I have to preface this. I'm not a good drifter, neither in Horizon or anywhere else. So I also don't know much about tuning for drift cars. So I'm just plopping in all the upgrades and just seeing how this goes. If you have any experience in upgrading and tuning drift cars, I would really love to hear from you what I could maybe do differently or just better. I would love to learn that at some point. But with the drift suspension and the tires and the added power, the thing definitely did drift. So if you discount my skills in drifting, which are pretty bad, this thing actually is a good platform, I think, for drifting. Which is why I hope that once drifting comes to motorsport officially, we will get more upgrades for this car in motorsport as well. So both the drift suspension and tires, because that would really make that car quite interesting with a lot more power, which I feel like it can be in a racing situation, but it definitely feels a lot more at home in A-Class for me in motorsport. But yeah, that's all that I wanted to show you here. As I said, I think the car looks kind of cool. I think they did a great job on making this a very special edition of a normally quite low-powered Chevrolet Camaro with a wide body, with the added power. It just feels a lot of fun to drive, and that in both games. So, as I said in the beginning, don't really mind that this is a sponsorship of sorts. I think they did a great job with the car, and if we get those kinds of cars as special editions in Motorsport or Forza editions in Horizon, I'm all for it. So, let me know what you think. Have you tried the car yet in Motorsport and or Horizon? What do you think of it? I would really like to hear your opinions. And with that, all that's left for me to say is, if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, feel free to do so. And I would like to thank you a lot for watching. I've been HD Racing. See you in the next one.